Welcome back, coin collectors and treasure hunters. Today we're diving deep into the exciting world of coins small in size, but potentially huge in value. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, you'll want to stick around as we reveal the top 4 quarter-dollar United States of America coins. The first up, the 1973 United States quarter dollar, may appear to be just another ordinary coin in your pocket, but for collectors and numismatists, it holds a fascinating story that transforms it from everyday change into a treasure worth thousands of dollars in rare conditions. When we talk about the most expensive coins, we usually imagine old colonial issues, silver dollars from the 1800s, or gold pieces from the early American minting days. But the truth is that even modern circulating coins like the 1973 quarter can reach astonishing values, depending on rarity, minting errors, and the condition they have been preserved in. The Washington quarter, first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, became a staple in U.S. currency. By the time 1973 came along, quarters were widely used every day, and most people never thought twice about them. However, a select few 1973 quarters ended up becoming extremely valuable. And that's what makes this story so exciting for collectors and treasure hunters today. The first thing to understand about the 1973 quarter is that it is part of the copper-nickel clad series that began in 1965 after the United States government removed silver from circulating quarters. Before that, quarters contained 90% silver, which meant that every single coin had intrinsic precious metal value. But by the late 1960s, silver prices had risen so high that people were hoarding coins, so the U.S. Mint switched to a copper core with a nickel coating. The 1973 quarter is one of those copper-nickel-clad issues, weighing 5.67 grams and measuring 24.3 millimeters in diameter. At first glance, it seems common. Billions were minted after all, but rarity doesn't always come from how many were struck. It comes from how few survived in pristine condition or how unusual errors slipped through quality control. That's where the value begins to skyrocket. Collectors place tremendous emphasis on condition, and that is why the grading scale is so important. The highest standard is known as mint state, or MS, graded from 60 to 70. A perfect MS 70 coin is flawless even under magnification, and such coins are nearly impossible to find in circulation. For the 1973 Washington quarter, examples graded at MS 67 or higher by PCGS or NGC can fetch incredible prices at auction. While a typical circulated 1973 quarter might only be worth its face value of 25 cents, one in MS 67 condition has sold for thousands of dollars. Imagine holding a coin that looks ordinary but has been so perfectly preserved, perhaps in a sealed mint set or untouched in a collector's album for decades, and then discovering it is worth more than a high-end smartphone, a luxury vacation, or even a down payment on a car. But condition isn't the only factor. Mint marks and production locations also add to the story. In 1973, quarters were struck at 3 main locations: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with the D mint mark, and San Francisco with the S mint mark. The San Francisco Mint primarily produced proof coins, designed especially for collectors, with sharp details and mirror-like finishes. These proof coins were not meant for everyday use, which is why they can command high premiums, especially when preserved in their original packaging. The Philadelphia and Denver issues, on the other hand, were mass-produced for circulation, and while they are much more common, high-grade examples are far harder to locate because most were spent, worn down, and damaged over decades of use. A flawless Denver or Philadelphia 1973 quarter is significantly rarer than people realize. The real excitement for collectors, however, comes from minting errors. Errors occur when something goes wrong in the coin production process, whether that means a misaligned die, an off-center strike, a double die, or even a planchet error where the coin is struck on the wrong type of blank. Some of the most expensive 1973 quarters ever sold fall into this category. For instance, there are examples of 1973 quarters struck on dime planchets, meaning the coin is smaller than normal but still carries the quarter design. Others show dramatic off-center strikes, where the image of George Washington is shifted leaving part of the coin blank. Such errors are incredibly rare, and collectors are willing to pay thousands for them because each one is unique, a one-of-a-kind piece of U.S. mint history. In auctions, these error coins attract fierce bidding wars, driving the prices into astonishing ranges. Let's not forget the proof errors from the San Francisco Mint. Proof coins are supposed to be the highest quality, made with polished dies and struck multiple times to bring out sharp details. But sometimes mistakes happen even in these carefully controlled environments. A proof quarter with a major doubling effect, or struck on the wrong planchet, becomes the ultimate prize for specialists. These coins often come with certificates from grading services that describe the error in detail, adding legitimacy and ensuring that collectors know exactly what they are buying. When such a coin appears at auction, it usually makes headlines in the numismatic world because the values can be extraordinary compared to a regular proof set. Another fascinating aspect of the 1973 quarter is its place in American history. The early 1970s were a turbulent time in the United States, with the Vietnam War still ongoing, political scandals unfolding, and cultural changes sweeping the nation. Everyday objects like coins became part of the background of that era. A 1973 quarter might have been used to buy a gallon of gasoline when it cost only 39 cents, or it might have been slipped into a payphone to make a call across town. Thinking about how these small pieces of change connected to everyday life adds another layer of historical interest. Today, holding a pristine 1973 quarter is not just about its monetary value, but also about owning a tangible piece of American history from half a century ago. So, how much can a 1973 quarter really be worth? The record prices are impressive. While most circulated examples are only worth face value, high-grade mess, 67 coins from Philadelphia or Denver have been known to sell for anywhere between $1,500 and $3,500 at major auctions. Proof coins from San Francisco in perfect PR 70 deep cameo condition can sell for similar amounts, with some crossing the $5,000 mark depending on demand. The real shockers, however, are the error coins. Off-metal errors, such as a 1973 quarter struck on a nickel or dime planchet, have sold for over $10,000. Dramatic off-center or double-die errors can also reach several $1,000s. These are the coins that transform a simple piece of pocket change into a life-changing discovery. What makes the hunt so thrilling is the possibility that such a coin could still be out there, hiding in a jar of change, sitting in a collection that has been passed down through generations, or even resting in someone's pocket at this very moment. Millions of people overlook these coins every day, never realizing their potential value. That's why so many collectors love searching through rolls of qua. The next up, the 1974 quarter dollar from the United States of America, may seem like just another ordinary coin at first glance. But when we dive deep into its history, varieties, errors, and collector demand, we uncover a fascinating story that makes certain examples worth thousands of dollars today. To many people, the 1974 quarter is simply pocket change, a 25-cent piece that has passed through millions of hands since its release. Yet for coin collectors and numismatists, this year holds secrets that elevate some of these quarters into the category of rare treasures. To understand why the 1974 quarter can be so valuable, we first need to revisit the context in which it was minted. The early 1970s was a time of transition in U.S. coinage, with silver coinage disappearing from circulation after 1964, leaving copper-nickel-clad coins to dominate. By 1974, Americans were fully accustomed to the clad coinage, and production numbers were massive. Over 800 million Washington quarters were minted in Philadelphia, and another 353 million in Denver, with an additional 2.6 million proof quarters struck in San Francisco. With numbers this high, the coin seems common, but rarity does not always depend on mintage. It often depends on errors, conditions, and special varieties that slip through the mint undetected. The most famous stories surrounding the 1974 quarter are tied to mint errors and special strikes. Some quarters from 1974 were accidentally struck on 40% silver planchets left over from earlier runs of Eisenhower dollars or bicentennial trial strikes. These off-metal errors are the holy grail for collectors because they were not supposed to exist. Imagine finding a coin in your change that looks and feels slightly different, perhaps heavier or with a brighter, silvery luster compared to normal clad quarters. That kind of discovery could mean you're holding a rare mint error worth thousands of dollars. For example, certain authenticated 1974 quarters struck on silver planchets have sold for over $10,000 at major auctions, making them some of the most expensive quarters from the 1970s. This is a striking reminder of how mistakes of the mint can turn an ordinary coin into a rare collectible. Another key factor that makes the 1974 quarter so valuable in some cases is its condition. Most quarters from this year entered circulation immediately, experiencing scratches, wear, and damage from decades of use. High-grade examples in pristine condition are exceptionally scarce. For collectors who demand coins graded mint state 67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, paying premium prices is the norm. In fact, a 1974 D-quarter graded MS-67 has been known to fetch prices above $3,000 at auction, simply because so few exist in that flawless condition. For proof coins struck in San Francisco, the value jumps significantly when the coin is found with a deep cameo contrast, showing frosty raised designs against mirror-like fields. A proof 1974 S in PR70 deep cameo has sold for over $7,000, showing just how much condition and eye appeal matter to serious numismatist collectors. Also pay attention to die varieties from this year. The 1974 quarters feature subtle differences in the way the letters and numbers were struck, with double die obverse examples being highly sought after. Doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," or on the date 1974 itself creates a coin that, while appearing normal to the casual observer, becomes incredibly special to coin hunters. Such double die varieties can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on how strong the doubling appears and the condition of the coin. These varieties remind us that minting is not a perfect science, and that imperfections often lead to the greatest treasures. But what truly makes the 1974 quarter legendary among collectors is the broader connection to the U.S. Mint's experiments leading up to the American Bicentennial in 1976. In preparation for the nation's 200th anniversary, the Mint began experimenting with different metals and designs as early as 1974. Some patterns and test strikes exist that never officially entered circulation, and while not directly tied to the circulating 1974 Washington quarters, they influence the mystique of the year. There are even rumors and reports of transitional error coins connected to these experiments, making the 1974 quarter a centerpiece of numismatic mystery. Whenever rare examples surface at auction, they generate a buzz not just among coin dealers, but among history enthusiasts who understand the significance of America's coinage story. Let's take a moment to consider how these values play out in the real world. Imagine someone digging through an old coin jar or inheriting a box of coins from their grandparents. Among the pennies, nickels, and dimes lies a slightly shinier 1974 quarter. At first, it might seem meaningless, but upon closer inspection, it could be a proof struck with deep cameo contrast, or perhaps it could be an off-metal error struck on silver. That coin, sitting unnoticed for decades, could suddenly be worth enough to pay for a car, a vacation, or even a small down payment on a home. Stories like this happen more often than you'd think, and they keep coin roll hunters, collectors, and treasure seekers constantly searching for that next big find. Auction houses have repeatedly highlighted the demand for the 1974 quarter. Records show that collectors compete fiercely for top-graded examples and rare error varieties. For example, Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have listed multiple high-value 1974 quarters, with bidding wars pushing final prices far beyond estimates. This trend shows no sign of slowing down, because the coin represents more than just money. It represents history, rarity, and the thrill of discovery. As long as collectors value these qualities, the 1974 quarter will remain one of the stars of the numismatic world. So what should you look for if you come across a 1974 quarter? First, check for the mint mark. A small D below the wreath on the reverse indicates Denver Mint, while no mint mark means Philadelphia, and an S means San Francisco. Proofs will always bear the S mint mark. Next, carefully inspect the coin surface. Does it appear unusually shiny, with mirror-like fields and frosty designs? That could mean it's a proof coin, which should be stored and graded. Does the coin look like it's made of silver, with a different ring when dropped compared to clad coins? That could signal a rare off-metal strike. Finally, examine the date and motto under magnification. Any signs of doubling could mean you found a valuable double-die variety. Even small details can make the difference between a 25-cent piece and a multi-thousand-dollar treasure. In conclusion, the 1974 quarter dollar of the United States is far more than just change. It is a piece of history, a symbol of a nation's evolving coinage, and in rare cases, a ticket to unexp. The next up, the 1977 United States quarter dollar, a coin that on the surface may seem ordinary, but in the world of numismatics, it has become an object of great interest and in some cases extreme value. Most people who hold a 1977 quarter in their hand would never suspect that a single piece of this coin could be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars, depending on its rarity, mint mark, and condition. But coin collecting has always been about the thrill of the hunt and the discovery of treasures hidden in plain sight. And so, the 1977 quarter has its own special place among America's most talked-about collectible coins. The 1977 Washington quarter features the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse, designed by John Flanagan, and on the reverse, the proud eagle with spread wings. These were struck primarily at three mints: the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark, the Denver Mint with a small d, and the San Francisco Mint, which struck the proof coins with the S mint mark. In circulation, millions were produced, but collectors have found that the difference between a pocket change quarter and a high-value 1977 quarter comes down to three key elements: rarity of errors, mint state condition, and demand from collectors who are always willing to pay high prices for the right piece. Let's first talk about condition. Coin grading is the lifeblood of the numismatic world, and even a common coin can become extremely valuable if preserved in pristine, mint state condition. Most 1977 quarters were spent, passed around, and heavily circulated, which means finding one today that looks brand new, free from scratches, bag marks, or signs of wear, is extremely difficult. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate these coins, and those that achieve grades like MS66, MS67, or higher can command incredible prices at auction. A 1977 quarter graded MS67, for example, has sold for thousands of dollars because collectors understand just how scarce that grade is for this year. And this is not just about shininess or appearance. It is about perfection under magnification, luster, strike quality, and I appeal next, we turn to the fascinating world of mint errors. The 1977 quarters are known to have some dramatic and rare striking errors that can skyrocket their value. Errors like off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes, and clipped planchets are highly sought after. Imagine holding a quarter where the design is shifted so much that only part of Washington's face is visible, or where the reverse eagle appears doubled. Such coins are one of a kind, and their uniqueness makes them prized possessions for error collectors. Some of these pieces have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars, simply because they are so rare and because they tell a story of what went wrong at the mint during production. To the average person, these mistakes may look like damage, but to a trained numismatist, they are treasures. Another factor that makes certain 1977 quarters highly valuable is the proof strike from San Francisco. Proof coins are not meant for circulation. They're specially struck with polished dies and planchets to create mirror-like surfaces and frosted details. While millions of proof sets were sold in 1977, the challenge is finding a flawless one that grades PR70, which is essentially perfection. Such coins have been known to reach astonishing prices at auctions because they represent the pinnacle of minting quality. Even among proof coins, cameo, and deep cameo varieties, with a contrast between the frosted design and the mirror background is sharp and beautiful, are especially sought after. Collectors also pay attention to subtle variations in mint marks or striking characteristics. For instance, strong strikes with full details on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers can increase desirability. Weakly struck coins, on the other hand, while not valuable in the traditional sense, can sometimes appeal to specialized collectors of strike varieties. When we trace auction records, we find that some of the highest prices realized for a 1977 quarter were for coins in gem mint state, particularly those certified by top grading services. In some cases, these coins have reached into the thousands of dollars, not because they're made of precious metal. Remember, 1977 quarters are copper-nickel clad, not silver, but because they are rare in that perfect condition. It is the law of supply and demand at work. While millions exist, only a handful can achieve perfection, and collectors are willing to pay dearly for them. What makes this story even more exciting is the possibility that anyone could stumble upon one of these treasures. Unlike older coins from the 19th century, which are rarely found outside of collections, the 1977 quarter is still out there in circulation. It is entirely possible that someone could receive one in change at a grocery store, unaware that the coin in their hand could be worth much more than its face value. That sense of hidden wealth is what drives many people into the hobby of coin collecting. So, if you have a 1977 quarter in your pocket or coin jar at home, what should you do? The first step is to take a close look at the coin. Check the mint mark, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Examine the coin carefully under good light or even with a magnifying glass. Look for errors like doubling, misstrikes, or unusual shapes. Then, evaluate its condition. Does it look nearly uncirculated, with strong luster and sharp details? If so, it might be worth having it graded professionally, as the difference between an MS-65 and MS-67 grade can mean hundreds or thousands of dollars for collectors. The 1977 quarter represents more than just money. It represents history, craftsmanship, and the never-ending pursuit of perfection. It reminds us that treasures often hide in the most unexpected places, and that even the coins we take for granted can hold incredible stories and surprising value. The world of coin collecting thrives on these discoveries, and the 1977 quarter is a perfect example of how an everyday object can transform into a highly prized collectible. So, the next time you come across a 1977 quarter, don't just spend it without a second thought. Hold it up, study it, and remember the stories we have explored today. It could be the gateway to a fascinating hobby, or perhaps even a small fortune hiding in plain sight. Whether it's the thrill of finding a rare mint error, the satisfaction of owning a flawless gem, or simply appreciating the history behind this piece of American coinage, the 1977 quarter dollar has earned its place among the most fascinating coins of the modern era. The next up to truth is, even coins from 1978, such as the United States quarter dollar, can hold surprising value, depending on condition, rarity, and minting errors. In today's video, we're going to explore everything about the 1978 Washington quarter, including its history, design, production numbers, error varieties, grading, and of course, the most expensive 1978 quarter dollar ever sold. This will be an in-depth journey that proves that sometimes what looks like just spare change in your pocket could actually be a hidden treasure worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So sit back, relax, and let's dive deep into the story of the 1978 quarter and discover why some of these coins are so valuable. The Washington quarter design itself has an important place in American coinage history. First introduced in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the design by sculptor John Flanagan featured a left-facing bust of the first president of the United States on the obverse, while the reverse showcased a bold heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches underneath. This design would remain on the quarter for decades, all the way up until the late 1990s when the 50-state quarters program began. By 1978, the Washington quarter was a familiar sight to every American, used daily for vending machines, parking meters, and everyday purchases. But what most people didn't notice was that while millions of these coins were being struck, there were subtle differences and minting errors that could make one particular coin worth an extraordinary amount. The 1978 quarters were struck in two main facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which used the D mint mark on the obverse of the coin. Combined, the mintage numbers were high, over 500 million coins in total, so the majority of circulated examples are only worth face value. However, when we shift our focus from circulated coins to uncirculated and high-grade examples, the story changes drastically. Collectors seek out quarters that have survived in pristine condition, with sharp strikes, no wear, and brilliant luster. These are the coins that grading companies like PCGS and NGC label as mint state, with the finest examples reaching MS66, MS67, or even higher. And it is in these rare high grades that the 1978 quarter becomes a collector's prize, sometimes fetching hundreds of dollars at auction. One of the main reasons high-grade 1978 quarters are valuable is because it is difficult to find them in perfect condition due to the way they were mass-produced. Quarters struck in 1978 were used heavily in circulation, and the softer copper-nickel clad composition made them prone to scratches, nicks, and bag marks. The U.S. Mint stopped using silver in quarters after 1964, which means that by 1978, the coins were made with a copper core and a copper-nickel outer layer. While this clad composition was durable for everyday use, it lacked the beauty of silver, and few people thought to save them. That's why today, uncirculated rolls, or single coins that manage to survive untouched, are much harder to come by, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for them. But the most fascinating aspect of the 1978 quarter isn't just high-grade condition pieces, it's the rare error coins that slip through the cracks at the mint. These minting errors can range from double dies, where the design appears doubled, to off-center strikes, where the design is shifted away from the center of the coin, creating a dramatic appearance. Other error types include clipped planchets, broad strikes, and coins struck on the wrong metal planchets. For example, there are stories of 1978 quarters mistakenly struck on nickel or dime planchets, resulting in coins that are smaller or lighter than usual. Such errors are extremely scarce, and when they appear in auctions, they can sell for thousands of dollars. Collectors love these oddities because they represent accidents that shouldn't exist, yet somehow made it into the hands of the public. Another factor that adds to the value of a 1978 quarter is its certification by professional grading services. When a coin is graded and encapsulated in a tamper-proof holder by companies such as PCGS or NGC, collectors gain confidence in the authenticity and condition of the coin. A 1978 quarter graded MS67, for instance, can command several $100s, while one graded, even higher, could sell for much more. In fact, auction records show that the most expensive 1978 quarter dollar ever sold was a pristine example in top condition, which reached a price in the thousands of dollars range. This shows just how much collectors value not only the rarity, but also the quality of these coins. Now, let's take a moment to talk about what makes the 1978 quarter stand out to collectors in today's numismatic market. Unlike earlier silver quarters, the 1978 clad quarter doesn't carry intrinsic precious metal value. Instead, its value lies entirely in scarcity and condition. This makes it a fascinating case where the coin's worth is tied directly to the collector community's demand rather than the bullion market. And while millions of people may still have 1978 quarters sitting in jars, drawers, and piggy banks, only a tiny fraction of those coins are in the kind of condition that collectors prize. That's why it's always worth checking your change closely. You never know when you might stumble across one of these rare gems beyond its monetary value. The 1978 quarter is also a time capsule of American history. It circulated widely during the late 1970s, a decade marked by cultural change, political challenges, and economic shifts. Holding a 1978 quarter today can bring back memories of the era of disco music, classic cars, and the early days of home computers. For many collectors, the sentimental value of such coins is just as important as the financial value. That's another reason why coins like the 1978 quarter continue to be popular among hobbyists, as they connect us with the past in a tangible way. To recap, while majority of 1978 quarters you'll come across in circulation are worth just 25 cents, certain ones stand out as extraordinary collectibles. High-grade mint state examples certified by grading companies can sell for hundreds, and rare mint errors can push values into the thousands. The most expensive 1978 quarter dollar ever sold represents the pinnacle of this series, showing how even a seemingly ordinary modern coin can reach stunning prices in the right condition. For coin collectors, this coin is a reminder to always look closely at your change and never underestimate the potential hidden value of everyday coins. As we've seen, the story of the 1978 Washington quarter is one of rarity hidden within commonality. A coin struck in the hundreds of millions can still produce treasures that become the pride of a collector's cabinet. Whether it's a perfectly preserved mint state piece, an unusual error, or simply a coin that carries personal memories of the late 70s, the 1978 quarter remains a fascinating part of American numismatics. And for those who keep their eyes open and learn what to look for, the opportunity to discover something special in an ordinary quarter is always there. So the next time you receive a quarter and change, take a closer look. It might just be a 1978 rarity worth far more than you imagine.